I'd locked in our honeymoon months earlier, money down, calendar set. Then his sister scheduled her wedding for those exact days. I wouldn't budge. While we were away, my husband checked his phone and froze. My sil had shared a post claiming. The travel agent's voice crackled through the speakerphone as I stood in our kitchen pressing my credit card flat against the counter. So that's the full deposit on the beachfront suite, 7 nights, June 14th through the 21st. Non-refundable after 30 days. You're sure? I'm sure, I said. My husband Mark was leaning against the fridge, grinning like a kid who just got handed the keys to a candy store. He gave me a thumbs up. I read the card number out loud, confirmed the CVV, and heard the click of the charge going through. Done. Our honeymoon, locked, loaded, paid for. We hadn't even been married a full month yet, but we talked about this trip since we were dating. A week on the coast of Portugal. Not some all-inclusive resort situation, either. A proper boutique hotel on a cliff in the Algarve, with a terrace overlooking the Atlantic. The kind of place you see in somebody else's Instagram story and think, must be nice. Well, it was about to be nice for us. Confirmation's headed to your email, the agent said. Enjoy it. I hung up the phone and turned to Mark. He crossed the kitchen in 2 steps and pulled me into a hug. We're actually doing this. We've been actually doing this for weeks, I said, laughing. I just gave them money. That's the easy part. Still, he said, pressing his chin against the top of my head. Feels real now. It felt real to me too. I'd been tracking this booking for months, since before the wedding, honestly. I'd compared flights. Mapped out restaurants. Found a little sardine place in Lagos that had a 4-month wait list and somehow snagged a reservation through a friend of a friend. I had a spreadsheet, color-coded. Mark teased me about it constantly, but he was also the one who kept adding columns, sunset kayak tour, wine cave, that cliff trail from the YouTube video. We were in this together. And then, 11 days later, his sister happened. I say happened because that's the only word that fits. Danielle didn't plan things. She detonated them. She was the kind of person who announced a cross-country move on Thanksgiving and then expected the whole family to help her pack by Saturday. Everything was urgent, everything was personal, and nothing, not a single thing in her life, could exist without pulling everyone else into its orbit. Mark's phone buzzed during dinner. We were eating Thai takeout on the couch, half watching some documentary about octopuses, the kind of evening that feels like it could last forever in the best way. He glanced at the screen, swiped it open, and his chopstick stopped mid-air. Huh, he said. The way he said it made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Not alarmed, just off. Huh, what? He turned the phone toward me. It was a group text, the whole family chain, and Danielle had sent a photo of herself holding a ring, followed by 3 lines of text. He proposed. We're doing it fast. Save the date, June 15th. I blinked. Read it again. Then I looked at the calendar app still open on my own phone from earlier that day, where I'd been double-checking our hotel check-in. June 14th through the 21st. Danielle had scheduled her wedding for right in the middle of our honeymoon. I started. Yeah, Mark said, already scrolling through the replies. His mom had sent a string of hearts. His dad had written congratulations, sweetheart. His aunt had already asked about colors. Nobody mentioned us. I set my food down, Mark. We leave the day before that. I know. Our honeymoon. That we paid for. That's non-refundable. I know, Jess. He said it the way people say I know when they're hoping you'll stop talking so they don't have to deal with the thing you're talking about. I didn't stop. Does she know our dates? He exhaled through his nose. I told her. A few weeks ago. She asked when we were going, and I told her the exact dates. I remember because she said that sounds amazing and asked me to send her the hotel link. So she knew. She knew, and she booked her wedding anyway. I didn't call her that night. I didn't text her. I didn't send a polite congrats but message to the group chat. I sat with it, because I wanted to be sure I wasn't overreacting before I said anything at all. By morning, I was sure. I wasn't overreacting. If anything, I was underreacting. Mark was already at the table with his coffee when I came downstairs. He looked like he'd slept about as well as I had, which is to say, barely. So here's what I'm thinking, I said, sitting across from him. He looked up with the expression of a man bracing for something. We're not changing our honeymoon. He nodded slowly. Okay. I mean it, Mark. We booked this months ago. We put money down. Real money. Non-refundable money. We've got flights, a hotel, dinner reservations, activities, all of it locked in for those dates. Your sister got engaged 11 days ago and picked a date she knew conflicted with our trip. That was her choice. I agree with you, he said. I paused. I hadn't expected that. You do? Yeah. I think it's messed up. I told her those dates specifically. She asked. So what do we do? We go on our honeymoon, he said. And I'll talk to Danny. He called her that afternoon. I was in the next room, not eavesdropping exactly, but not listening either. I could hear his side of it clearly enough to piece together how it was going. It was not going well. Danny, I told you those dates. No, I'm not saying that. It's not about choosing, it's about. We put a deposit down months ago. Non-refundable, Danny. Non-refundable means we don't get the money back. Then the volume of his voice dropped, which meant she'd started crying. He came out 20 minutes later looking like he'd just completed a hostage negotiation. She says she can't change the date. The venue only had 2 openings and the other one was in November, and she doesn't want a November wedding. So she picked the date that directly overlapped with our trip, apparently. And she's upset that we're not canceling. He rubbed his face. She's upset. Mom's upset. Dad hasn't said anything yet, which means he's upset and waiting for Mom to do the talking. Let them be upset. We're going. That should have been the end of it. In a normal family, it would have been. Someone would have said something awkward at Christmas and it would have faded into the background of family history. But Mark's family didn't do normal. They did pressure campaigns. Over the next 3 weeks, the calls came in like scheduled airstrikes. They had a rhythm to them, one person per few days, each one coming at a slightly different angle, like they'd coordinated it over their own group chat. Maybe they had. First, Mark's mother, Linda. She called him on a Tuesday while he was driving home from work. He put her on speaker because he was stuck in traffic and couldn't hold the phone. I was already in the car, we'd met up after an errand. Mark, honey, I've been thinking about this, and I really think you need to reconsider, Mom. Your sister is getting married. This is her big day. You only get one of those. We also only get one honeymoon, Mom. You can go on a trip anytime. You can't unmiss your sister's wedding. I kept my mouth shut. I physically bit the inside of my cheek. We've already paid, Mark said. Thousands of dollars. It's non-refundable. We planned this before she even got engaged. Money can be replaced, Mark. Family can't. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so perfectly Linda. A woman who had never once offered to pay for anything was now dismissing thousands of dollars like it was loose change in a couch cushion. Mark told her we weren't changing our plans. She hung up without saying goodbye. Next came his Aunt Carol, who sent a long winding email, not to Mark, but to me, about family bonds and the importance of showing up. She said she understood that young couples have their priorities, but that she hoped I'd think about what kind of precedent this sets for your place in the family. I read it once, forwarded it to my best friend Megan with the subject line "You're going to need wine for this," and didn't respond. Then came Danielle herself, who didn't call. She texted Mark a series of messages over 2 days that ranged from guilt-tripping to accusatory to outright manipulative. Some highlights. I guess I know where I rank. Mom is literally crying. You're choosing a beach over your own sister. Everyone is going to notice you're not there, and they're all going to know why. And the crown jewel, if you don't come, don't bother calling me after. Mark showed me each one as it came in. He didn't ask me what to do. He just looked tired. I told him the same thing every time. You already told her the answer. You don't owe her a new one. His dad finally weighed in a week before we left. A single text to Mark, "Your mother's very hurt. Think about what you're doing." That was it. No question. No conversation. Just a sentence designed to land like a brick and sit in his chest. Mark stared at it for a long time. Then he put his phone down and said, "Let's go over the packing list." We flew out on June 14th. I'd half expected some kind of last-minute ambush, a voicemail from Linda at the gate, a text from Danielle timed perfectly for boarding. But nothing came. The airport was just an airport. The gate was just a gate. And when the plane pushed back from the terminal and the ground started to shrink below us, I felt something release in my shoulders that I hadn't even realized I'd been holding. The flight was long but smooth. Mark slept most of the way, which I took as a good sign. His body was finally letting go of the tension that had been coiling through him for weeks. I watched 2 movies and ate an unreasonable number of pretzels and felt, for the first time in a month, like I could breathe. Like the air in the cabin was somehow cleaner than the air we'd been breathing at home, even though objectively it was recycled and slightly stale and smelled like someone's tuna sandwich. Portugal hit us like a dream. Not in a cheesy way, in a literal, almost disorienting way. The light was different. The air tasted like salt and warm stone. The taxi from the airport wound through narrow roads lined with orange trees and low stone walls, and everything was slower. The traffic, the conversations drifting from open windows, even the clouds. Our hotel was exactly what the photos promised. White walls, terracotta, a terrace with a view that made you forget you had a phone. The woman at the front desk handed us a glass of local port as we checked in and said "Welcome home" like she meant it. The bed was enormous. The bathroom had a rain shower and one of those ridiculous freestanding tubs that look like they belong in a magazine spread. There were fresh flowers on the nightstand and a handwritten note from the manager wishing us a happy honeymoon. Mark dropped his bag, walked to the terrace, and stood there for a full minute without saying anything. Then he turned around and said, "We made the right call." "Yeah," I said. "We did. The first 2 days were perfect. We ate seafood on a patio overlooking the water. We walked along the cliffs and took photos we'd never post anywhere. We found a tiny bar that served local wine out of ceramic pitchers and stayed there until midnight talking about nothing important. We slept in. We showered together. We napped in the afternoon like retired people. It was everything a honeymoon is supposed to be." June 15th came and went without either of us mentioning it. I noticed. I know Mark noticed too. But we didn't say Danielle's name. We didn't check the time zone difference. We didn't look at social media. We just let the day pass. It was her wedding day, and we were 3,000 miles away eating custard tarts in the sun. I won't pretend I didn't feel a flicker of something, not guilt, exactly, but awareness. A kind of weight. Like knowing there's a storm somewhere far away and you can hear the faintest rumble if you really listen for it. But I didn't listen for it. And neither did Mark. On the third morning, June 16th, we were sitting on the terrace having breakfast. Coffee, fresh bread, some kind of local jam that tasted like figs and honey. The ocean was doing that thing where the light hits it and it looks like someone scattered diamonds across the surface. I had my feet up on the railing and was reading a novel I'd been meaning to finish for 6 months. Mark was scrolling his phone. I didn't think anything of it. He'd been good about staying off social media, but he still checked the news, the weather, random stuff. Normal phone behavior. Then he stopped scrolling. His thumb hovered. His face did something I hadn't seen before. Not anger, not sadness, but a kind of locked-in stillness. Like his brain was processing something it didn't want to accept. "Mark?" He didn't answer. "Hey. What's wrong?" He turned the phone toward me. His hand was steady, but the muscles in his jaw were tight. It was a Facebook post. From Danielle, public. Shared with a caption that read, "When your brother chooses a vacation over your wedding day, broken heart emoji, family isn't always what you think it is." Underneath, she'd written a long paragraph. I had to take the phone from him to read the whole thing. The post described, in Danielle's particular brand of theatrical self-pity, how her brother had abandoned her on the most important day of her life. She wrote about how she'd begged him to come, how he'd refused, and how she'd walked down the aisle knowing her only sibling wasn't there. She mentioned that he'd chosen a beach trip over her. She didn't name me directly, but she didn't have to. Every sentence was laced with implication. My brother's wife made him choose. She has him on a leash. She doesn't care about this family. There were already over 100 comments. I scrolled through a few. Mark's cousin had written, "That's so sad, Danny. You deserve better." An old family friend posted, "Unbelievable. Some people show you who they are." Danielle's new husband had added a heart emoji to every sympathetic comment. Mark's Aunt Carol had written, "We all saw this coming. Some people only care about themselves." Linda, his own mother, had commented, "My heart breaks for you, sweetheart. You handled it with grace." Not one person in that thread had mentioned that the honeymoon was booked first. Not one person had noted that Danielle knew the dates. Not one person had said, "Hey, maybe there's another side to this." It was a public trial with no defense attorney. I looked up at Mark. He was staring at the ocean but not seeing it. "How many people have seen this?" I asked. "It's been shared. I don't know how many times." I looked. It had been shared 47 times. People we didn't even know were resharing Danielle's post with captions like, "This is why I keep my circle small and family first always." I felt something crystallize in my chest. Not rage, that would come later. Something colder. Something more precise. Like watching a blueprint unfold and realizing exactly what kind of building someone has been constructing behind your back. "She planned this," I said. Mark looked at me. "She planned the whole thing. The date, the guilt campaign, the calls, the texts, all of it was set up. This post was the point. The wedding was the stage, and this," I held up his phone, "was the performance." He didn't argue. He didn't defend her. He sat there for a moment, then said, very quietly, "Yeah. I think you're right." I handed the phone back. "What do you want to do?" He took a breath. Then another. He looked at the ocean, then at me, then at the phone in his hand. "I want to finish my breakfast. And then I want to handle this." So that's what we did. We finished breakfast. I poured him a second coffee. He ate the rest of his bread. Neither of us rushed. There was something important in that, in not letting her post dictate our morning, our pace, our trip. She'd thrown a grenade into the middle of our honeymoon, and we were going to sit with our coffee and watch the ocean before we picked it up. When he was ready, Mark opened his phone and started typing. He didn't write a long post. He didn't match her drama. He wrote something short, direct, and factual. I watched him draft it, delete it, redraft it, then show it to me. It read, "Since my sister has decided to make this public, I'll share the other side. Our honeymoon was booked and paid for, flights, hotel, activities, months before Danielle got engaged. She asked me for our exact dates and I gave them to her. She then chose to schedule her wedding during that same week. We were told she had another date available and chose not to use it. We asked her to consider a different date. She refused. We're not going to apologize for honoring a commitment we made to each other long before the situation was created. I love my sister, but I won't be guilt-tripped into pretending that a conflict she manufactured is somehow our fault. Jess and I wish Danielle and Tyler nothing but happiness. I read it twice. Post it. He posted it. Then he turned his phone off. Not airplane mode, off. That's it for today, he said. She gets one response, one. She doesn't get the rest of this trip. I put my phone on the dresser inside, face down, agreed. We spent the rest of the day at the beach. We swam. We found a spot on the rocks where the water was so clear you could see straight to the bottom, and Mark pointed out a school of tiny silver fish darting through a gap in the stone like commuters in a subway tunnel. We ate grilled prawns at a restaurant where the tables were literally on the sand. I got sunburned on my shoulders and Mark rubbed aloe on them that night while we watched the sun bleed out across the water. It was a good day. A really good day. And it was ours. But the thing about turning off your phone is that the world doesn't stop while it's off. It just saves everything up for when you turn it back on. Mark powered his phone on the next morning while I was in the shower. When I came out, he was sitting on the edge of the bed holding it in both hands, and the look on his face told me everything I needed to know. How bad? I asked, toweling my hair. Bad and good, he said. Depends on who you ask. His post had gone wide. Not viral, neither of us was famous, but wide enough within their circle. Dozens of comments, mostly from people outside the family, saying things like, good for you and she knew the dates, that's wild and this is textbook manipulation. But the family had closed ranks. Linda had commented on his post, I'm so disappointed in you, Mark. This was not yours to share publicly. Which was rich, given that Danielle had started it. His Aunt Carol had written something about airing dirty laundry. 2 cousins had unfriended him overnight. Danielle herself had not responded to his post at all. She just updated her own with a new comment that said, I'm not going to engage with this. My wedding was beautiful and I'm choosing peace, white heart emoji. Choosing peace. After detonating a bomb and walking away. Mark handed me the phone. Read my mom's text. I opened it. Linda had sent a message that read, what you did is unforgivable. You have humiliated your sister in front of the entire family. Don't expect to be welcome at Christmas this year. I looked at Mark. She's banning you from Christmas, apparently? We're telling the truth. We're telling the truth publicly. I sat down next to him. How do you feel? He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, like I've been carrying something that was never mine to carry, and I just put it down. I didn't push. I didn't analyze. I just put my hand on his knee and let him sit with it. That afternoon, we went to the sardine restaurant, the one I'd been planning for months. It was exactly as good as I'd hoped. Tiny, crowded, loud, the kind of place where the waiter shouts your order to the kitchen and someone brings out a plate of fish so fresh it practically winks at you. We split a bottle of white wine and ate until we couldn't move and then walked back to the hotel along the coast path with the wind in our faces and the last of the light turning the cliffs orange. Over the next few days, the dust settled in the way dust does when you're not standing in it. The comments slowed. The shares stopped. Danielle posted photos from her wedding, smiling, flowers, the whole curated fantasy, and her comments section filled with congratulations and heart emojis, and nobody mentioned us. Mark's phone stayed mostly quiet. A few supportive messages from his old college friends. One long text from his dad that said, essentially, I understand why you did what you did, and I think your sister was wrong about the dates. But your mother is very upset, and I don't know how to fix that. Mark read it, typed I'm not asking you to fix it, Dad, and left it there. On our last full day in Portugal, we sat on the terrace one final time. The ocean was rougher than it had been all week. Whitecaps, wind, the kind of weather that makes you feel like the world is actually alive and not just scenery. Mark had his phone in his hand again. He was looking at something but not showing me. What? I said. He turned the screen. It was Danielle's latest post, a reshare of one of her wedding photos with a caption that read, 1 week married to the love of my life. Thank you to everyone who showed up for us. You know who you are. 2 hearts emoji. The emphasis on showed up was not subtle. Below the caption, in the comments, she'd replied to someone who'd written you look stunning, babe, thank you, crying face emoji. It wasn't easy getting through the day knowing my own brother didn't care enough to be there. But Tyler and I have each other, and that's all that matters. Mark locked his phone and set it on the table. He stared at it like it was a wasp he was considering whether to swat. She's never going to stop, he said. No, I agreed. She won't. Because the story she's telling works for her. She's the victim. She'll always be the victim. And as long as your family lets her be the victim, she has no reason to change the story. So what do I do? You already did it. You told the truth. The people who wanted to hear it heard it. The people who didn't aren't going to change their minds no matter what you say. He picked up his coffee. Took a sip. Looked at the ocean. When we get home, he said, I'm going to talk to Mom one more time. In person. Not about Danielle's post. Not about the comments. Just about the facts. The dates. The deposit. What actually happened. And if she still wants to take Danielle's side after hearing it face to face, then I'll know where I stand. And if she does? He set the cup down. Then I'll know where I stand. There wasn't anything else to say about it. We packed that night. We left Portugal the next morning, tanned and rested and slightly sad the way you always are when you leave somewhere beautiful. The flight home was quieter than the flight there. Mark slept again, but this time it felt different, not like escape, but like rest. The kind of sleep you get when you've made a hard decision and you're done debating it. We landed. We got our bags. We stood in the customs line behind a family of 5 with a screaming toddler and a man carrying a ceramic rooster he'd clearly bought at the last airport gift shop. Mark turned on his phone in the car. It buzzed for 30 straight seconds. Texts, notifications, missed calls. He put it in the cup holder and didn't look at it until we were home and the bags were inside and I'd started a load of laundry. Then he sat on the couch and went through it all. Most of it was noise. A few more cousins weighing in. A distant uncle who'd somehow gotten involved. A group chat he'd been removed from and then re-added to by someone who apparently thought that was helpful. But there was one message that stood out. From Danielle. Sent the day after his post. He hadn't seen it because his phone had been off. It said, I hope you're happy. You ruined my wedding week. Mom hasn't stopped crying. Everyone is talking about your post instead of my marriage. You are so selfish it makes me sick. I don't know if I can forgive you for this. Mark read it. Then he locked his phone, put it on the coffee table, and leaned back. She's mad, he said, that people talked about the truth instead of her wedding. She's mad that I responded. Yep. She expected me to just take it. She expected you to do what you've always done. Let it go. Let her control the story. Show up, smile, and absorb whatever she throws at you so the family stays comfortable. He looked at me. I'm done doing that. I know. He met his mother for coffee 3 days later. I didn't go. He said he wanted to do it alone, and I respected that. He was gone for about an hour and a half. When he came back, his face was calm but set, like concrete that had just finished drying. She cried, he said. She told me I embarrassed the family. She said Danielle was devastated. She asked me to take the post down, and? I told her the dates. I told her about the deposit. I told her Danielle asked for our travel dates and then scheduled her wedding on top of them. I told her everything, calmly, like I was reading from a checklist. What did she say? She said it didn't matter. She said even if Danielle was wrong about the dates, I should have been the bigger person and come to the wedding anyway. She said the honeymoon could have been rescheduled. With non-refundable tickets and a non-refundable hotel. That's what I said. She said family is worth more than money. Easy to say when it's not your money. He almost smiled. Almost. Yeah. That's basically what I told her. And then she said if I wasn't going to apologize to Danielle, she didn't think we should come to Christmas this year. So she actually said it. Out loud. She actually said it. Out loud. I sat with that for a moment. Then, what did you say? I said okay. I blinked. You said okay? I said okay. If that's her line, then that's her line. I'm not going to beg to sit at a table where I'm only welcome if I pretend my sister didn't do what she did. He sat down across from me. He looked lighter. Not happy, lighter. Like something structural had shifted inside him, and the load was finally distributed properly. I'm not going to chase them, Jess. I've been chasing them my whole life, trying to keep the peace, trying to be the reasonable one, trying to smooth things over so Mom didn't get upset. And every time I did, it just made it easier for Danny to do whatever she wanted because she knew I'd fold. He looked at his hands. She scheduled her wedding on our honeymoon. On purpose. And when we didn't cave, she went public to punish us. And my mother took her side. That tells me everything I need to know about where I stand in this family. I didn't argue. I didn't offer hope. I didn't say maybe in time. Because he wasn't asking for comfort. He was stating a position. And it was the right one. I'm with you, I said. Whatever this looks like going forward, I'm with you. He reached across the table and took my hand. Held it. Didn't say anything else. We never took the post down. Danielle never admitted she'd known the dates. She never acknowledged the deposit, the flights, the months of planning. In her version of events, the one she kept telling, the one that lived on her social media like a monument, she was the bride whose brother abandoned her. Full stop. No context. No before. Just the wound, displayed under flattering lighting. Linda never called to apologize or to check in or to ask how Portugal was. Not once. Not a text. Not even one of those passive-aggressive thinking of you messages that mothers send when they want credit for reaching out without actually reaching out. Just silence. A silence that said more than any phone call would have. Christmas came and went, and we spent it at my parents' house, eating my mom's dry turkey and playing Scrabble with my dad, who cheats and everyone knows it but nobody can ever prove it. My mom asked once, gently, how things were with Mark's family. He said, "They're not," and she nodded and passed him the cranberry sauce and didn't bring it up again. Mark's phone sat on the counter all day. It didn't buzz once. And the ocean, I imagine, was still out there, the same one we'd watch from that terrace, doing what it always does. Not caring. Not choosing sides. Just moving.